Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by award-winning Christian fiction author Ruth Douthitt.
Hey, welcome. Thank you, Curtis. This is awesome being here.
Ruth is a workshop writer teacher. She is a speaker and a podcaster as well as a professional artist. She writes suspense fiction, women's inspirational fiction, as well as fantasy fiction. So we're going to be talking to her about everything that she's up to and going to be up to. So Ruth, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Okay. I'm born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. That's where I'm calling in from. And I didn't think I'd ever be a writer. I was always an artist first and foremost. So I thought I would be an art teacher. But you know how things are, those curveballs, they come right at you. And before I knew it, I was writing books. And my first book came out in 2011, and it was fantasy for middle grade called The Dragon Forest. And I was with a small publishing house. They were amazing. They really believed in me. But while I was waiting for book two to come out, I thought I would go ahead and try some indie publishing. So I published a spooky ghost story series for middle school readers. And I really fell in love with self-publishing. So after the third book was ready and sent to the small house publisher, I decided to get my rights back and just self-publish all my books from there, which I did. Mostly because you can self-publish a book in 3 or 4 months, whereas with a publisher, it sometimes takes 2 years. So my readers are middle grade readers, and they don't have patience to wait 2 years for a book. So it was great to be able to tell them my next book comes out in 6 months, and they would get excited. So then it was around 2021, I think it was, where I decided to try some writing for upper, grade kids like YA, and then also women's fiction, women's contemporary. So I gave that a shot, and it was wonderful. I enjoyed it. And that's kind of where I've settled now. And because I used to be a bailiff in Superior Court years ago and sat in many criminal trials, I heard a lot of interesting testimony, a lot of murder, cases and such. So I always wrote down some ideas for future stories for suspense novels. And finally, a couple of years ago, I was able to write my first suspense novel. It is Christian based, so it's not, gruesome or anything. It's not horror, that's for sure. It's more like a psychological suspense. And I loved it. So I'm going to park here for a while and just write some suspense for the next few years. But I will always have a dragon book in me, so don't worry. I'll still release fantasy books about dragons and my coloring books where I get to, divulge in my artistic passion and illustrate those coloring books for kids too. So, and I'm a wife of 37 years to my husband Scott, and we have an adult son and a cute little dog, and we are enjoying beautiful 78-degree weather right now before a couple weeks before Christmas. Yay. That's a little bit about me.
We'll talk about your current book. Tell us what we can expect when we read it and what inspired it.
Well, the one that I have out right now is for Christmas. It's a cozy Christmas mystery novella. I love cozy mysteries. And so I took a short story that I had written years ago and added words to it to make it a novella. So it's about 20,000 words long. And it was inspired by just like a group of goofy, older women who run a Christmas tree decorating contest right in the middle of town. It's a fictional town. And when a dead body ends up right in the middle of their Christmas trees, well, that just ruins everything. So these lovely ladies decide to solve the crime so that they can remove that ugly yellow crime scene tape and hold their Christmas decorating contest as usual. So that's what the book is about. It's just a fun, cozy mystery. So if you're a fan of those types of books, you'll really enjoy it. So that's the current one that's out right now.
Well, you're also a professional artist. So, kind of tell us about that and why fine arts is so important to you.
Oh, fine arts, yes. Well, when I was a kid, I always drew. I always had paper and pencil, and I was always drawing. And so it was really my fourth grade teacher who noticed in me the ability to draw and use color and also write a little bit of poetry and such. And so one day when I had to do a book report on George Washington, I asked her if I could illustrate it, and she said, sure. So she was the one who really inspired me. She was the one who told my mom at a parent teacher conference, Ruth, she's really gifted. You should nurture that talent in her. And my mom really took it seriously. And ever since, that meeting, if I needed art supplies, my mom was there and she would buy me some art supplies. She'd buy me canvases and brushes and an easel. And on Sunday afternoons, I would sit out in the backyard and paint. She made sure I always had paper and pens and markers so that whenever I wanted to draw, I had everything right there. So she took that teacher seriously and she really nurtured my ability. And then God bless teachers. My high school art teacher was also very inspirational. When I entered high school, I had a big head, a huge ego, because when I was in middle school, I was like, the best artist on campus, and I got to illustrate the yearbook, and I just thought I was hot stuff. So when I went into my freshman art class, I thought I was going to be the it girl there too. But lo and behold, it was one of those classes that had freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors all in one class. And so, no, I was no longer the best artist in the school. I was just one among average. There were two senior artists there who were absolutely astounding. Their work was spectacular. And so my ego, got deflated, and so did my self-esteem. And my teacher said, okay, the first assignment of the year, I want you to draw something and show me your skill level. So all of us, of course, started drawing. And I drew an elk on a hill with some grass. And I was so pleased with myself. I went up to my teacher and I thought, this is going to knock his socks off. He's going to be so impressed. But when he looked at it, he said, it's not finished. Go back and finish it. And when I sat down, I was just so shocked. I thought, what? I can't believe he said that. Look at it. It's a drawing. But when I looked at it, I thought, yeah, he's right. It's not finished. I could do so much better. And from that day on, my entire high school endeavor was to impress that teacher. And no matter what I turned in, I had to make sure that he was just blown away. And he never really was. I mean, he knew I had talent, but he was never like, wow, that's the greatest. So finally, before we left for summer, right after our junior year, he said, all of you who are going to be seniors next year, you have an art assignment over the summer. I want you to do a project, and the first week of school, you turn that project in. And I thought, yep, challenge accepted. And so I just drew my socks off all summer on this one project. And when school started, I stood in line to show him my project. And when he saw it, he was blown away. Finally, it took 4 years. I finally blew his socks off. And that drawing was of a hawk, a pencil drawing. And it won me 2 scholarships to college and best of show at the state fair and the best drawing of the state fair and the best of our high school art contest that we had. And I won senior artist award. So I was finally the best artist in the school. But it wasn't because of me, it was because of that teacher. And I'm sure you can understand this, Curtis, that when someone doesn't just, accept something that you hand them right away, it makes you it motivates you to want to do better and be better. And I was so grateful that he did that, that he didn't just say, oh wow, that's the greatest drawing I've ever seen. But he said, no, you can do better. And he was right. And I pushed myself and pushed myself. So I thought I was going to be an art teacher, but no, God had other plans in mind for a while. So I went in different directions and then finally ended up at the university. And when God did give me a chance to be a teacher, I was a writing teacher for middle school, not an art teacher, and that blew me away. But I shared with my students the same story that I just shared with you because I told them, I'm going to push you too because I expect great things from you. And I'm not just going to say, oh, wow, that's the greatest story you've ever written. No, I'm going to push you and I'm going to push you to be better and better because that's going to help you in high school and it's going to help you in college. And it's funny because most of those students are now graduated from college, they're getting married and having kids. And one student graduated, and I told him congratulations on social media. And he said, Mrs. Douthitt, I couldn't have done it without you pushing me on those essays. So I'm meant to be an artist, that is true. But I also believe that the fine arts, you're not just limited to one. I dabble in music and art, drawing, painting, and also, writing is a passion of mine too. So those of you out there listening, you can, tap into all of them, but the fine arts are so good for us. They're very therapeutic and calming, and they give us a chance to express ourselves. So do yourself a favor and don't just narrow yourself down to one. Try all of the fine arts. Get on a stage. Try out for a show if you can. Sing a song if you can. Write a song. But try some of them. Try all of them if you can.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay, everybody, it's Michael E. Cullen II.
And I'm Sesame and Carta from the All Too Real 2 podcast. We're passionate about movies, TV, and pretty much all things pop culture.
Dive into the chaos of failed sitcoms, direct-to-video sequels, and the quirky realms of cinema and TV.
Join us every Thursday for your dose of All Too Real 2 entertainment.
We'll guide you through debates like whether Howard the Duck qualifies as a superhero.
Ponder if Larry the Cable Guy could be the new Rock or Schwarzenegger.
Discover if some shows and movies should have stayed in the cutting room.
Ever heard of a sitcom featuring that dictator with the funny mustache? Well, we watched it.
We're dedicated to unraveling the peculiarities of pop culture, sometimes with awesome guests.
So, if you're into the eccentric world of pop culture,
listen and subscribe to All Too Real 2.
Available wherever you find podcasts
and on Age of Radio.
What advice could you give somebody that's navigating the publishing industry?
Oh, publishing, yeah. Well, the first thing I can tell you, it's not easy. It's going to be hard, but that's okay. Like they always say, if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. There are easy ways that you can try. You can use AI to write a book, but I don't recommend that. So try writing something that you're passionate about, something that's meaningful to you, and your passion will come through. So just know that you're going to get rejected. It's going to sting if you're going the traditional route. My most ardent piece of advice is hire a professional editor. Don't rely on AI, Grammarly and all these other programs to edit your work. No. Hire a professional editor. It can run you about $300 or $400 for a 70,000 word manuscript. But it's worth it. It's worth it because you get that human aspect, not AI. And your very human editor reads a lot. And so he or she can point out parts of your story that aren't making sense, some holes in your story, Whereas AI just tells you, hey, that's great. Have you thought about this? Or maybe do you want me to write this for you? Do you want me to draft this scene for you? And that's not a human being. A human being will say, hey, this scene's not working. Or you repeat this word a lot. Or maybe you should try some other, synonyms for this word. Or, that's what you want. You want a human being who can say, yes, this scene is really great. It echoes of this writer and that writer. You're on the right track. Or they have to just come out and tell you, no, it's not working. Go back and fix this. Go back and fix that. So do yourself a favor and hire a professional editor. And then the second piece of advice is hire a professional book cover designer, please. I'm an artist, so I design my own, but you may not be able to afford or, have that talent behind you. So save some money and hire a professional. Let them know what you want, but also let them know what you don't want. And please, please look at the books that are out that are in your genre. So like me for suspense. Before I designed my suspense cover, I looked at all the popular best-selling suspense books that were out there. And I honed in on the ones that were, doing really well, that would really grab the reader's attention. And I modeled my cover after those. I think there were three of them, three different covers that I really loved. And I modeled mine after that. If you're just designing a cover for a cover that you like, you think, oh, I want it to have a dove and the ocean and a cloud and the sun, and that's what I want. Well, I can guarantee you that's not a good thing to do. You want to go by what the readers want, the readers of your genre, what they are expecting. So you need to let go of what you want and start thinking about the readers. When they walk into a bookstore or when they walk up to your table at an event, you want your cover to grab their attention. It's the number one marketing tool that a writer has is a book cover. So it has to be spectacular. So hire a professional, come to them knowing what you want, but also what you don't want, and know some of the lingo. Study the design principles, the elements of design, study them. So when you're having that conversation with your professional designer, you can come across as educated and informed. And that's what they want. They would love to work with you if you know some principles of design. That's about it. Just, have a thick skin. You're going to get rejected. Work with a professional editor and hire a professional book cover designer.
Well, what authors inspire you to do what you do?
Oh, wow. I guess from childhood, when I read Where the Red Fern Grows, we had to read, our teacher read it to us, and then we read it for a book report. And I was like, what, sixth grade? That book really stuck with me because of how descriptive he was and also how he took the reader on a journey. It starts off in modern times when this tired man is coming home from work and he finds a dog and he brings the dog home. And then that takes him in flashbacks all the way back to his childhood in the Ozark Mountains. So I love that idea of taking the reader on a journey. And then when you're in the Ozarks, he's just phenomenal with describing the scenery. So that really inspired me. So Where the Red Fern Grows and The Black Stallion, and then also the King Arthur series. That's what got me interested in fantasy. I just love that story of the ordinary boy, thrust into the extraordinary. Same as The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings as well. You can tell J.R.R. Tolkien was inspired by that story as well. So I'd have to say those authors inspired me, but the authors that keep me going are really good suspense authors like Patricia Bradley. She's amazing. Diane Mills, Lynette Eason, Elizabeth Goddard. These are all romantic suspense authors, and their books are amazing, and they really draw the reader in, and they're very exciting without being, gory, and because they're all suspense, but they're not like gory or horror or anything like that. So they inspire me to keep going with what I'm doing.
Well, talk about your podcast. You're also a podcaster, so let the listeners know about your podcast and where we can hear it and what we can expect when we hear it and why podcasting is such a passion for you.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, my podcast is called A Writer's Day. And I called it that because A Writer's Day is so different in that we are always thinking of our next stories. Whether you're at work or driving or watching a show or reading a book, we're always thinking about our next story. So when we lay our head on the pillow, we are exhausted from all the observing of things around us, listening to conversations, and brainstorming and plotting out our next story. So that's why I called it A Writer's Day. And I started it in 2019, mostly because I wanted to build my platform. And I wasn't on social media all that much back then. So when I was a teacher, I left the classroom with several lessons about writing that I still had. And I thought, well, maybe I could start a podcast and share these writing tips and see how that goes. And so I did. And then I started reading from my books, chapters from my books, and that was fun. And then authors started contacting me saying, hey, can you interview me about my book? And I thought, sure. So about 2 or 3 years of doing that was fun. And then my platform started to go, but then publishers started contacting me and saying, hey, I have all these authors with books coming out. Can you interview them? So that's been fun. Ravel and Baker and Bethany and Tyndale, they've all been sending me their authors. And so I've been scheduling interviews. So it's about 6 years now, and I really enjoy it. It's a passion. As you know, I mean, there are days when I just, I'm so tired after work and I have things that I have to do. I'm thinking, I have another podcast interview. But I tell you what, every time I get on there and I listen to my guests talk, their stories inspire me, and I get so motivated that when I log off, I'm just, I'm so excited to go write. So it's really been a motivational tool for me. I feel like it's helped a lot of new writers out there because we give writing tips. And when you listen to a published author tell their story about how they became a published author, all the obstacles they had to overcome, the highs and the lows, the rejection, you walk away just feeling so motivated to keep going and inspired to keep going on this journey. So yeah, those are the reasons I did it, and I'll keep doing it. It's been so much fun. So yeah, that's why I do my podcast, A Writer's Day. It's on Apple and Spotify and YouTube and all those channels. So check it out.
Well, what do you hope readers take away from reading your book?
Well, because I write suspense, I definitely want them to be entertained and, creeped out a little bit and then want to turn the page to find out who did it. But my books they come across with light and hope too. There's always those themes of reconciliation and, you know, forgiveness and gratitude. So I want readers to come away from the story entertained, but also maybe having seen themselves in the characters. My characters are flawed. They've been through some trauma. My one character, Emma, she witnessed her mother's murder when she was only 5 years old. She saw her mother be killed, and that motivated her to become a cop and then a forensic psychologist, and then finally an author, suspense author. So my readers will find very, very flawed characters who are just trying to get by. They're dealing with their own issues, but they are, relying on God and having hope in Him to get them through. So I just want readers to, after they finish my book, seeing the hope that's in the story, that they too can keep going and overcome obstacles in their life. With God, all things are possible.
We'll talk about why mental health and wellness is so important to you.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one. In 2014, my sister was diagnosed with cancer, and it took her, unfortunately, a year to die. It was a slow, painful death from cancer. And when she died in 2015, um, it was really difficult because she was my big sister. And about 5 months later, our mom died of a massive heart attack. And that was a shock. And that was more traumatizing because one night I was talking to my mom, told her I loved her, and then the next day she was gone. So those two deaths, one right after another, kind of sent me downward. And I relied heavily on my art to get me through. And my friend said, you should try grief support. So I did. And that's when I learned all the things, all the effects of grief on the human body, the mind and the emotions and the physical health. It just hits everything. And it helped me understand why I was going through so much. I was once so proficient at my job, and now I was making all these mistakes. My brain was all foggy and clouded, and I get angry so easily. So understanding more about grief helped me, and it inspired me to start looking into mental health and wellness. So I went back to school and I got my master's degree in mental health and wellness. And I started to learn about the brain and the gut connection. What we eat affects our mental health, and our mental health affects what we eat, and all of that stuff. It was amazing. And again, I learned more about how the fine arts can help us process through so much trauma and turmoil in our lives. So I guess that's why mental health and wellness is so important to me. My own mom struggled with mental health issues all my life, and she left this world really not 100% in her mind. She still suffered from mental health issues. So mental health and wellness is important to me because I don't want to become like that, dependent on pills and not being able to tell dreams from reality and stuff like that. And so once I started learning how to cope with grief in a healthy way, that changed everything. And then I started to learn about wellness, the importance of knowing, mindfulness and knowing how you are that day and how to process through the feelings that you're having in a healthy way through expressing yourself in art or writing or music. So I'd have to say it's because of the loss that I had that mental health and wellness is so important to me.
Well, tell us about any other upcoming projects that you're working on that listeners need to be aware of.
Oh, wow. 2026 is going to be huge. Lord willing, of course. I'll have book 3 in my Desert Shadow suspense series. So we have Fatal Chapters, Fatal Standoff, and then the cover and title reveal are coming soon. So you can head over to my website at artbyruth.com and sign up for my newsletter. So you'll be aware of those upcoming projects. I have another suspense series that's starting. Book 1 will come out next year, and the cover reveal will be coming soon. And then I'm going to have a standalone suspense book. It's more like a psychological thriller, and that'll be coming out. And then another coloring book, of course, and then another Christmas novella, which will be a suspense and kind of like a romantic suspense set in a small inn outside of Asheville, North Carolina during a snowstorm. And a mystery happens, and a woman and the cook, very handsome cook, come together to try and solve that mystery. So that hopefully will be coming out around November, just in time for Christmas. So yeah, next year is going to be crazy busy. I'll still be podcasting, traveling all over for book events and book festivals, writing books, doing art. Somewhere in there, I'll sleep. But I thank my husband. He does all the laundry and the shopping. So that's awesome.
Well, throw out your contact info so people can keep up with everything that you're up to.
Yeah, please head over to my website. You can learn all more, about me and see some of my artwork there. I have my art portfolio at artbyruth.com. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at author_RA_Douthitt. So that's author R.A. Douthitt over at Instagram. And that's where I post the most. I like to post funny reels and things about my books. And then my podcast also has an Instagram, A Writer's Day. And then also you can listen to my podcast on YouTube. And I'm also on Facebook. Yay. And that's author Ruth Douthitt over there on Facebook.
We'll close this out with some final thoughts. Maybe if there was something I forgot to talk about that you would like to touch on, or any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
Well, I just want to encourage any writers out there, if you are thinking about going into the publishing industry, just I hope that I've encouraged you, not discouraged you. It can be so fun. It's wonderful to gain readers, and when they contact you and say how much your book inspired them. So keep going, find that editor, listen to their advice, find some writing craft workshops to attend and conferences to go to, and listen to all those writing podcasts out there as well. But if you feel like God has given you a story, you have to write it. You have to get it out there. It's a calling. So keep going forward and don't give up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to check out Ruth, check out her podcast, her books, and everything that she's up to. Follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. And for more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, please visit www.curveball337.com and share the website and the show to everybody you know. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. And Ruth, thank you for all that you do. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Curtis. It's been great.
For more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, visit www.curveball337.com. Until next time, keep living the dream.